This is the Shoulda Bet More podcast, presented by Gold Boys Network. Here's your host, Will Hill.
Welcome to the Shoulda Bet More podcast, presented by Gold Boys. Coming up on the show, Matkafee of Dub Club Win will join us. We will talk NFL, get his picks for the week, get his thoughts on maybe some of these futures awards, see if anything he likes in the NBA, because he is an extremely sharp bettor in the NFL, but also in the NBA. So I'll get his thoughts on anything we should be betting futures wise. Not going to, again, I talked about this, not going to do a ton of NBA like day in, day out. But as football, not as football winds down, but just as it's going on, as the NBA is going on, want to look if there's anything out there to bet, want to pass it along. So we'll talk to Matt coming up shortly. I'll get to my picks, but we'll start with Thursday Night Football. The Eagles get an emphatic and decisive win. Weird game where it was choppy. It was low scoring. You felt like, man, Philly's just leaving points on the board all over the place. The kicker was awful, Elliott. And I've seen some people say, oh, they'll probably cut him on Friday. I don't know that they will. Now, you can't stand for too much of that where you miss 2 field goals and you miss an extra point. You can't have too many of those and keep your job, but he's a good kicker. He's been there a while. I think they'll give him a pass, just say, hey, bad night. He was just kicking. It looked like, the ball just had a weird spin, like almost like a knuckleball where it was taken off on him. He missed one in the first drive, the third drive. The Philly had a bad punt, their second drive that led to Washington's first touchdown. It was just a strange game where it was so low scoring early and all the points left on the board. And then it just exploded late where Philly, once they pull ahead, they get the ball back, score another touchdown. And Washington does get the ball back. They get their own touchdown and a 2, I guess, would come into account. If you bet the teasers, if you bet the second half. But Philly wins, Philly covers. Now Philly is in really good shape to win a division. Dallas is dead. The Giants are dead. It's just between Philly and Washington. And if you look at the remaining schedules, Philly, I would say, is slightly tougher. They're at the Rams. That is a Sunday night game next week. Then they are at the Ravens, which is a tough game. That Sunday game is actually the 24th of November. Yeah, so that is next week. So at Rams, at Ravens, home for the Panthers, home for the Steelers. Then they go at Washington, home for Dallas, home for the Giants. So at Rams, at Ravens, Panthers, Steelers, Commanders, Cowboys, Giants. That's manageable. I wouldn't say that's easy because you do have some tough games in there, but you get a couple layups at home to finish it. And then Commanders, I would say, is slightly easier. Home for the Cowboys, home for the Titans, at the Saints, home for the Eagles, home for the Falcons, at the Cowboys. So the Commanders do have an easier schedule. The problem is Philly's got a 2-game lead in the loss column, and Philly has the tiebreaker now. If you're Washington and you're trying to make a case for them to win the division, you just say, hey, as long as they trip up once and then we beat them, that neutralizes the tiebreaker. Then it comes down to division and other stuff, and then it becomes a lot of more complicated from there. But long way from that, Philly is in very good shape. They're probably going to win the division, and they're a really good team. They are a very, very good football team. I mean, the defense is better. All the film guys say it takes a little time to gel under Fangio's scheme, but once you get it, it's really effective. The rookie corners have played well, and I've talked about this for a while now. They're just a very good offensive team. Now, Hurts was up and down tonight, but they can run the ball. Barkley's not a good back. Barkley is a great running back. And the 2 receivers, even though Smith and Brown didn't do much tonight, they've got Goddard. They've got those 2 guys who are both monster players. And it's just a really good, really balanced football team. When they get that as long as they get it to 3rd and 3, 4th and 1, they can. From 3rd and 3 on, I know the tush push, that shove they do, the quarterback sneak is not as effective as it was last year without Kelsey, but you can still get it most of the time where you can just kind of QB sneak it twice for 3 yards. They go for it on 4th down. They're aggressive. It's just a really good team. I would not be shocked at all if they're in an NFC title game. I don't think they'll get the 1 seed, but if you could ever get the 1 seed and swing it so where Goff is outdoors in Philly, on grass, bad weather, I don't know how that scenario will go. I know Goff played well in Green Bay a couple of weeks ago, but that was only 40 degrees. It was rain. It was a little different than, hey, it's freezing cold, it's wind, the crowd's going crazy. I would actually probably pick Philly against Detroit. I know Detroit's a better team on a neutral field than Philly, but if Philly could ever get that game in their building, which I don't think they will, but if they could ever get that game in the building, they'd be tough. I wouldn't be shocked if Philly's in a Super Bowl. I wouldn't pick them. I think Detroit's the better team, but Philly being in like the NFC title game back in that area, in that neighborhood would not surprise me at all. Philly's a really, really good team. I think people just kind of soured on them because the end of last year, the start of this year, the coach, but this was a dominant win And at one point, this game was like 370 to 140 in yardage, and Philly was only up 2 points. And if you bet Philly, you're like, man, I deserve better. This is going to be an ugly non-cover, but they pull away at the end. They win, they cover, and they are in good shape now to win the NFC. Still have some work to do, but they are in good shape. Certainly a leg up, if not two legs up on Washington. And Daniels looked like a rookie quarterback. He had the late touchdown, but he did not play well. He's quietly not played well here for the last month or so. I didn't think he was great against Philly. It wasn't great against the Bears. I've got my eye on that. Daniels has quietly not played as great this last month or so. But before we get to Matt McAfee, let's talk picks for this week. Starting to hopefully, I don't want to jinx myself. I'm starting to think I feel see the ball a little better after a rough first month, 6 weeks of the season. I think I have a better feel for these games. But let's get to the picks. I'm going to go Denver -2.5. You can find a 2. You can actually find a -130 on the money line. I honestly prefer the money line just because the Falcons have a habit of playing these weird games that land on or around the number and win or lose by 1 or 2, dating back to last year. But as a Viking fan, I'm very familiar with Mr. Kirk Cousins, and I know how he operates. He's very good. He's good when he's comfortable. He's predictable in that way, where he's indoors. He's not getting pressure. He's got guys open. He can spread the ball around. He's pretty accurate. He's fine. When you get him outdoors on grass against a good defense, a good pass rush, he can't extend the play. He can't get away from the pass rush, and then it gets a little dicey. So I will take Denver on the money line. I think they'll be able to run the ball. I think Atlanta is still kind of a soft dome team playing outdoors here, so I like Denver in this spot, and I will take the Colts plus the 3.5. I think there's some 4s out there. I'll call it 3.5. I just don't know how the Jets are favored by more than a field goal against anybody. Man, it's interesting. When betting, you need to have conviction. That's a good characteristic to have, but you don't want to be stubborn. I thought the Jets were going to be really good. They're not. I mean, it's just, I haven't picked them a lot the last couple of weeks. I just think it's time to, to admit, hey, this team's not any good. They've been just doubling down, tripling down, trading picks, firing their coach, trading more picks. None of it's working. They got buried last week. I wonder where their head's at, with all the expectations they had coming into the season. It was a win now team. The defense has played awful. So I know Richardson hasn't been great, but Richardson is 6-1 against the spread as a starter. There's the threat of the run when he's in there more, just because, hey, he can fake it to Taylor and keep it. He can hand it. There's almost like you have to defend 2 players at once if you're defending the run. So I'll take the Colts plus the points. I'm just fading this Jets team. I think this could get even uglier here for the Jets, who are dead at 3-7. I will go with my last pick, and I'll give my thoughts on. You know what? I'll just make this one of the picks. I'll go over 46 Chiefs Bills. These quarterbacks, it's funny. If I just said, hey, this team, and I was vague about it, this team is going for their 4th straight win in this matchup, you would say, yeah, that makes sense. Kansas City always beats Buffalo. But it's the other way around. Bills have beaten Kansas City 3 times in a row in the regular season, which is a little counterintuitive. And this is one of these games. You're going to feel like an idiot who you pick if you get it wrong. Because if you fade Mahomes, if you bet against Mahomes and you lose, you say, what the hell was I thinking? Why would I bet against this guy, especially as an underdog? All he does is win. I get that. But if you're betting against the Bills and you lose, you're going to have the same. It's not going to be as dramatic as, second guessing, but you're going to have that feeling of, boy, Kansas City, they've been living on borrowed time. They're overdue for a loss. Buffalo's good at home, all this stuff. Allen. So it's a tricky game. I think teasing the Chiefs is probably a good idea. I will go over 46, though. These quarterbacks know when they play each other, they have to outdo each other. The coaches are a little more aggressive. Now, the regular season games haven't been as high scoring, but I do think there's a little bit of back and forth, hold serve aspect where, you have to go for it. You have to score touchdowns. These guys get up for the game. So 46 is not that high of a total. I could see a 27-20 game or a 27-24 type of game. So I will go over 46. And one last quick one in college. I will go back to I was on this last week, Georgia under. Georgia, Tennessee, the big game of the weekend. A lot of implications for the playoff. Georgia, as long as they win, they're going to get in. If they lose, it gets very dicey. And I actually don't think they would get in with a third loss. I'll go under the 48.5. I don't know if the Tennessee quarterback is going to play. He's been bad anyway. Both teams are really good on defense. Tennessee's exceptional in the front 7. I think this could be a really ugly, really low-scoring game. Georgia does not have nearly the same level of skill on offense. They haven't replenished when they lost McConkey and they lost Bowers. They just haven't replenished those guys. And you'd think with all the 5-star recruits they have everywhere, they would just have pros lined up like Bama used to. This is kind of a dead year. Beck has played awful. I think they'll try to manage him and just be conservative, try to not have him kill that team with turnovers. So I think that's a factor. And again, I don't know who Tennessee has at quarterback. I think Tennessee's good at defense. So a lot to me adds up to, well, I could see this game going way under, like a 19-16, 20-17 game. I don't think you get to 48.5, barring a rash of turnovers, barring just me, having the wrong handicap here. I think this game stays under, and I think it stays way under the total. So Chiefs, Bills over 46, Georgia, Tennessee under 48.5, Colts plus, and there's some fours out there. I'll give myself the 4. Colts plus 4, and then Denver on the money line over Atlanta. Those are the picks. We will see what Matt McAfee likes. That is next. This is Shoulda Bet More podcast. All right, we are back. Shoulda Bet More podcast, and he is back. You can catch him over at Dub Club Win. It is one of the sharper handicappers around. Matt McAfee. Matt, what's up, man? How's it going?
Will, going well. Great to hear you. Having a good time watching Thursday Night Football here. So,
yeah, it's we're recording this at halftime. I'm curious what you think as we get into some of these games here. I guess we'll just start with the biggest game of the week, Bills Chiefs. I feel like this is one of these games. Whoever you pick, if you get it wrong, you're going to feel like an idiot, because if you go against Mahomes and you lose, you say, "Man, what was I doing? I was overthinking it." If it goes the other way, if you pick the Chiefs and you lose, man, the Chiefs were overdue. They had been playing above their head a little bit. They've been getting lucky. Where do you land on this Bills Chiefs game?
I'll take Patrick Mahomes as an underdog. I'm always happy to take the candy. I think they are getting a little bit lucky here and there. Block punts or block field goals to win games. They're not putting up crazy numbers or anything, but it just feels like in crunch time, I'd rather have Mahomes than anybody else, and somehow, some way, they're going to get it done. Give me a couple points, with a 2.5. If you're lucky, you can find a 2.5 out there. But yeah, I think it's a tight game. It comes down to the end, like it normally does in this Bills Chiefs kind of game. So I'm happy to take, in my estimation, the better team. Bills will sit in too deep, and Mahomes will just dink and dunk with Kelsey and Hopkins all day.
Yeah, it's weird, because if I just said to you, if I was vague about it and I said in the regular season head to head, this team is going for their 4th straight win, you'd say, oh yeah, that makes sense. The Chiefs always beat the Bills. It's the other way around. The Bills have actually won the last 3 in the regular season, which I had to check and double check, because it's just, you think of it and you think, wow, the Bills just never beat them. They just never beat them in the playoffs. They've beaten them in the regular season, which is strange. Any feel on the total? It's ticked down to 46. I know the Chiefs have morphed into an under team here, but man, Mahomes and Allen, it feels almost like the opposite of when you get 2 good pitchers starting against each other, like I don't know, like Wheeler and Sale, where it's just like a 1-1 game and they want to outdo each other. Mahomes knows he has to score against Allen. Allen knows he has to score against Mahomes. These teams go for it. I would actually lean towards an over. Do you have any feel for the total here?
Yeah, without knowing the weather, I'm assuming it's not going to be a crazy weather game. So I would lean over as well. Even a low first half, adjustments get made, as we saw in the Bengals and Ravens game recently. They just can fly over with those halftime adjustments. So I think over at that is the way I would go for sure.
Yeah, and it's not a crazy high total, too. I mean, you think Mahomes and Allen, you have to get in the 50s, like 47. I mean, that 27-20 game pushes over again. I know the Chiefs have morphed into another team, but I might actually end up on the over and look at with the Chiefs. If nothing else, if you don't want to pick the game, that's a great teaser leg, because basically have to lose with double digits with Mahomes. So there's plenty of other things to pair it with, whether it's the Texans or the Bengals on Sunday night, 49ers. There's a good 4 or 5 options here to pair it with. Anything else you like for this week?
You mentioned teasers. I just wanted to ask you, have you been playing teasers this year? I haven't played a single teaser all season long. And normally I would have played 2 or 3 every week. But for whatever reason, I haven't gone that route. And I was wanting to know how they were going for you if you have been playing them.
They were a disaster early in the year, because you remember all those upsets, and look, that's half of the battle with teasers. That's half of your choices, where it's all right. You got the 7-8 point favorite. You tease them down through the 3 and the 7. Well, the first month of the season, those 7 and 8 point underdogs lost all the time, not just some of the time, or didn't cover. Like, they were losing constantly. The teasing up has been okay. It's been better lately. You haven't had as many upsets. So it was a disastrous start, but again, it's small sample. And again, I think teasing up is usually even the better way to go, because I think I heard the status 88 games have been decided by 7 points or less, or 8 points or less coming into this week. That's the most ever through this time. So it's the NFL. I mean, it's all the games are close, and look, a lot of these teams are not very good. A lot of these teams are not very good on offense. So it's hard to get margin. There's just a lot of mediocrity, a lot of kind of crappy teams. What do you think there's a reason for that? Do you think that's recency bias? Do you think that's real? Because I mean, just go down the line: Titans, Raiders, Panthers, Giants. I guess you could probably throw the Jets in there. I mean, the Cowboys are in that mix now. There's just Jags are pretty unwatchable. Your Browns are have talent but aren't that much better. There's just a lot of these teams. Do you think there's any rhyme or reason?
I think this dominated kind of the narrative this last week on social media, where what happened to the NFL? Why are totals down? Why are passing yards down? Why is scoring down? And I think it's just ebbs and flows of right now bad offensive line play, and it stems from that. A lot of these offenses are don't have big play ability because teams know, hey, we're going to sit back in too deep and make these teams go on 10, 12, 14 play drives. And we're banking that our pass rush will win. We're banking on a penalty. There's almost, it feels like there's a holding drive killer on so many of these. First down and 10, boom. Now we're first down and 20. And at that point, you already know it's going to be 3 and out.
Right.
And I just think, although so many rules are geared towards good offensive play, I think the advantage is kind of swung to the defense, because a lot of these old school defensive coordinators where, hey, we're going to line up in single, we're going to bring the heat, that's gone. And I think a lot of the great offensive lines have kind of dissipated. So many guys get hurt playing rookies. They can't afford to pay the offensive line because all these skill positions and defensive players are making so much more money. So it's a number of things. A lot of these quarterbacks too get thrust in here. They don't have a lot of experience, and so they get fooled on these zone and man concepts too. It used to be where you run bunch and some motion, and it was a dead giveaway. But the sophistication of the defensive side, they can make it just make a zone defense look like man in ways that they weren't before. And these young guys aren't seeing the type of defenses in college, and so they're trying to learn on the fly out there, and it's just really, really tough when your offensive line also doesn't hold up. And so edge is on defense right now, and I think we got to figure out a way to run the ball more and force teams out of the too high look and work off of play action. And the teams that can't are really, really struggling. So you look at like the Bears now. It seems like Caleb Williams kind of hit that wall of not being able to dissect the defenses. He's got great skill positions, but the line's playing terrible. So his eye level's down, and he just is shook back there. And so what do? You throw a vet back there. Same thing happened with Anthony Richardson in Indianapolis, where he did tap out a little bit, which you don't like to see. Right. But the line is not playing great, and these young guys, it's just so difficult. Even you throw a vet back there, give you maybe a spark for a bit, but I don't know what to say other than the best quarterback in the league, Patrick Mahomes, right now has very pedestrian statistics, and so you're going to have to find ways to win these long sustained drives. Have a good defense, have a good kicker, and that might be NFL football right now.
What are your best bets for the weekend?
I do like my Browns to go in there this week. It's a nice spot for Jameis to kind of show up in New Orleans here, and I think take advantage of very, very low expectations. The line stinks to high heavens for me. Wes being only a 1-point dog in New Orleans, that just tells me the Browns are the side. And being a Browns fan, watching every single play, if you would have asked me what to make that, I would have said we would be 3.5, 4.5 dogs, easy. But why are we one? I can't figure it out other than somebody knows something that we don't. So probably Browns on the money line. I think your Vikings are a good look. 6 feels heavy on the road. But again, what did we see from Tennessee that tells you they're going to be able to keep up with the Vikes? I think Darnold has a bounce back spot, and they should be able to win that. You mentioned the Chiefs already. I do like the Chiefs. I think the Packers, I mentioned how bad Williams is struggling. That's under a touchdown. That could be potentially a teaser leg for you if you're looking to something to pair with the Chiefs. Maybe take the Packers down or the Browns up. But I'd say those are my looks. Niners almost always handle the Seahawks. 6.5, another teaser kind of spot that you might be able to pair something with. But yeah, I just got to wait this late into the season, see injury reports, who's in, who's out before firing off anything. I very rarely will grab a number early unless it's a player prop that drops, today-ish. You find something sharp that may close 5 points or something later in the week if you try to bet it on Sunday. But yeah, right now I do a lot of just waiting and seeing, getting that final report of who's in and who's out, and trying to attack mostly player prop market day of. It's kind of how I've been betting the league this year, and staying away from a lot of the sides and totals just because we've had so much parity.
Yeah, getting back to your Saints Browns, look, home field's worth like 1.5 or so. Is there really a difference? Like, are the Saints 3 points better than anybody? I know the Browns haven't had a great year, but the Browns still have some talent both sides of the ball. So that open 3, I get why it got bought down. I just think, I don't know, maybe the Saints, they get that bounce last week from the new coach, but that was a little luck involved. Atlanta missed some kicks, and does that bounce wear off? Does that sustain? So that's I get the sentiment for Cleveland at the 3, at the 1.5. Like you said, it's a good teaser leg. Do you think there's anything awards wise? MVP, Lamar's the favorite, offensive player of the year. It's it's Barkley, it's Henry. Any of these awards right now have any value in your mind?
I think there's some value going against Lamar. I just don't know if there's appetite to give him another one. And honestly, I think you mentioned Derrick Henry. I think he's been more valuable to what the Ravens have been doing. When they pound the rock with him and get it going, they win every game. If they don't, they get caught. So I just, between the two of them, I feel like there may be some canceling out. And with the recency bias of Lamar, I would pivot. I think while Mahomes his stats aren't good enough to win him MVP, so I think that's probably you could draw a line through him. I thought it was surprising that Andy Reid's getting so much love in the Coach of the Year market.
Hasn't lost. I mean, it's there's not he's not that usual. Hey, came out of nowhere team, but like if you're going to put up a 15-2, 16-1 season, which, hey, if they win this week, I don't think they're going 16-1 or 15-2. It's just, you can win this award with dominance too.
Right. And I think you got Mike Tomlin staring at you for Coach of the Year.
A lot of good candidates.
A lot of good candidates in that market. Right now, I think it's still very, very early to really try to find something. There's enough runway. We saw with, you hit the Flacco comeback player of the year. He wasn't even named to start, the starter yet this time last year. So you can see how quickly things can change. If you're asking me to grab an MVP right now, I think I would have said Goff, and I still might say Goff. He's at his preseason number right now at 40-1. That was disastrous interception game where everybody saw it. Might have been that his Brock Purdy moment where, you're like, hey, that's going to stick in my memory. Whatever, everything else you did doesn't matter. But I mean, if we're looking at the Lions right there at the end of the year, the 1 seed, and his numbers will be better than a lot of guys. So I think if I'm grabbing any ticket right now and I have no other position, I think Jared Goff at 40-1 is worth a shot because he may have enough runway for make people forget about that. And to have guys like Jaden Daniels ahead of him, I don't see him having a chance to win MVP. Kyler Murray, no. Joe Burrow, no. Like I just, to me, I like the value. But yeah, the awards, I haven't dug deep. My portfolio is empty right now on NFL season-long awards somehow, some way. I just have been truly trying to dial in on player props on a week-to-week basis and attacking those because I think they've been the most profitable way forward for me.
Yeah, and these markets are not as just ripe with mistakes as they were maybe 3, 4, 5 years ago, where you get guys at long. Oh, yeah, like you said, you got Flacco last year at long odds. You can get some guys if you find the right time, but like MVP, there's so many eyes on these markets that I just feel like, you know what, it's hard sometimes to to find those steals.
Yeah, I mean, to me, Lamar at 110 is crazy. Like
I agree.
You can't make that bet. They if they lose to the Steelers, like what does that do to
Right.
They dropped to 7-4. That probably skyrockets Russ as a comeback player of the year candidate, and it probably, although I don't know if he's eligible. Did he actually come off an injury? And will they actually stick to that?
That's all great questions. All
we
great
don't
questions.
know. Yeah, so those types of markets that you're handicapping the voters always
not
makes
easy.
Not easy at all. But yeah, I mean they've got a tough run in, and they will have some nationally televised games, and they should be there at the end. But I can't imagine putting down money at plus 110 this early in the year. So does that mean there's value with Allen or Mahomes at 4-1, 5-1, 6-1? Like that, I feel like that was what you could get him at preseason. So yeah, give me Goff at 40. See what happens.
All right. Anything NBA we should be betting? Are the Cavs going to go 82-0? Any awards in that market? What do we got?
Yeah, that was another social media storm this week. I saw FanDuel caught all kinds of hell because they posted the prop, would they go undefeated, and it was 1,000-1 were the odds they hung. Which
did you bet it?
Of course not. Like the odds really should have been 1,000,000,000-1.
Sure.
And so they got killed from all circles, and I think rightfully so.
I agree.
That's a very predatory line to hang for, attacking the fishiest of new gamblers. But, that they've become number one in the marketplace for a reason. So I don't want to kill them too bad. But no, Cavs have been great. I think that they'll run into a ceiling in the playoffs, but right now, they seem very invigorated and they're fun. We've got the in-season tournament, and they think they've changed it now to call it the Cup. The games are fun, and the stars play all the way because point differential matters. Right. So if you're a prop bettor, it's a great time to bet NBA games because you get the maximum burn from your stars, and so you could oftentimes hit those overs in garbage time if the game isn't close. But the Mavs, I mean, they've been a fun team. Obviously a wagon. They've got Clay in there. They seem to be an over machine. Every game they play is just in the 120s. I like betting Pacers games, of course, a lot of fun. Totals are always pretty high. Lakers have been good. LeBron is amazing. Doing what he's doing at his age is crazy.
Yeah, it really is.
AD's having his best season of his career. It seemed like he had a down night last night. He went for 21 and 14. So it's just crazy. I mean, we've got the talent level is through the roof. A lot of teams made some big changes, and some roles are a little bit different, but the teams that didn't make big changes are starting the season pretty well. You're seeing that. And the teams that potentially made major surgery are dealing with some issues. But Yeah, NBA is fun this time of year because for the most part, a lot of guys are healthy and you get a lot of exciting basketball. So again, just look at those player props. Keep an eye on the Twitter machine where they'll let you know if somebody's sitting and all of a sudden the role players expanded role. You can hit that. The timing of the market is awesome. You can make huge waves and whether it be a three prop or something like that. Like the volume in NBA is always going to be there for these guys. That's why it's a fun, and in my opinion, it's the best sport to bet because there's just so many games every single night. The books have too much information thrown at them to try to stay sharp. So, especially during football season,
Yeah.
To me, it's the best time to bet the league.
I'm all for putting more juice in the regular season. I just don't know what. Like, why am I supposed to care about the cup? Like, I'm a Lakers fan, and they won it last year, and they went crazy, and they got mocked because they won it. They celebrated. Then when they lost the playoffs, everyone had their jokes lined up. Oh, at least who cares if they won? Who cares if they lost the playoffs? They won the midseason tournament, and you know what? The people mocking them were right. It's just what you win the NBA Finals. I know. Look, you're a Cavs fan. That means something to you. You win a Super Bowl. That means something. The midseason tournament. I don't know what it is. It's just kind of the format's confusing, and it just seems. I don't know, contrived is maybe the right word.
Yeah. It's very, as a European soccer fan and somebody that appreciates like having cup events during the season, you could tell that they're trying to borrow the success of having those in-season tournaments.
They're trying to get these guys to play. I mean, the league, the league got into a rough shape with, Popovich started all this, and he was right to do it. Hey, I can give my guys a breather. I can let my backups play. And there's a two-pronged effect where not only, and that was that famous game against the Heat where he had Duncan, Ginobili, and Parker not even make the trip. It was a finals rematch, I think. And he's like, hey, not only am I going to give these guys a rest, but now my backups, they're playing meaningful minutes. So when I need them, my 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 12th guys or whatever, now they're seasoned, now they're experienced. It was a smart move. The problem is when everybody starts doing it, it's like, man, not a lot of guys are playing. So, I mean, I get they're trying to fix it and they're trying to add, but it's just tough. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's, everybody in the league can play. That's for sure. You don't make that league by accident.
Right.
And you look at a guy like Steve Kerr, who he's running 9, 10, 12, sometimes as many as 12 guys per game. The Warriors are having a great start to their season. And I think that while it sucks for fans because tickets have only gone up, it's more and more expensive every time to go out there to see your guy. And you may only get to see, like LeBron a handful of more times, especially maybe this might be his last season. You never know. And so if he comes to town and all of a sudden LeBron's not playing and you paid premium price for that ticket, that's a bummer. And, the games, these TV networks and stuff, they pay a lot of money to pick these games. And, they want the stars out there too. Right. It's hilarious on TNT when, they end up getting a clunker of a game because the stars are not resting and they'll, for example, like Embiid or somebody like that sits and they'll just kill them. It makes for good TV, but the actual product of the basketball definitely suffers. But you got too many games. 82 games is just too many games. There's no sense of urgency. That's why football is so good, because even in a bad, shitty football game, it still matters. And there's just never going to be that sense of urgency in basketball where everybody's working towards the finals. So this cup, I mean, it's nice for those teams that know that they're not going to try to win the finals. But, the Mavs, do I expect to see the Mavs or the Celtics in the NBA Cup finals? No, I don't. The teams that really are trying to win a title will not probably go all in on trying to win this thing. But it'll make for some fun games between the teams that are in the, those play-in spots who are flawed, but it gives them a chance to play meaningful basketball. And so I like what they're doing. I think it will catch on a little bit more, but it will be also those things where some of the teams that they'll decide like, hey, we're not going to play our guys. You may look at like the rosters getting expanded a little bit, and them saying, all right, well, we're going to play a in-season tournament style team versus but who knows? It has impact on the playoff seedings and stuff too. So I think in 10 years we may feel like it will be a success. I think it'll still be around, and it'll just more and more tweaks.
Yeah. And it's just the last thing on this with the load management. It's more than even too, like you turn on the games and the best players aren't playing, or you go to the games and the best players aren't playing. Once you start to give off the message to the fans that, hey, we don't really care about the regular season as players, like, man, as a fan, if you don't care, why do I care? And that's a hard reputation to shake. And that's just a dangerous road to go down, I think.
Oh yeah, it is. It's but hey, the in-arena fans, like, that helps the owners, line their pockets with a few extra shekels and stuff. But it's the TV deals, and the product. As long as they're putting games on, they're going to get paid tons and tons of money. And to me, that's the thing. It's like, I can watch a game without the star players and still appreciate the high level of basketball being played. And sometimes it's fun to not see it. You take SGA, for example, somebody like that, or Giannis off the Bucks. All of a sudden, all of that usage has to get redistributed through the rest of the team. And if you're a fan of the sport, it's more fun to watch the game be played in a team fashion. It's kind of the ISO star ball, where
there's a lot of good players. Even the shitty teams have a lot of good players, I feel.
Exactly. Like. I mean, the 10th guy off the end of the bench, like, he can ball. Like, you get him a right shot. Like, it's all these guys are very good players. And so it's fun to see a team like the Spurs, you mentioned, Pop. Like, all right, we're not worried necessarily about winning. We're worried about developing and playing a style and, like, getting all these guys figured out. And they're going to have growing pains, sure. And while you're going to those games as a Spurs season ticket holder, that may not be ideal, but, like, it's still fun to see that team kind of gel and grow from nothing. Like, I remember watching the Cavs before LeBron, like, literally, like, the worst team ever. Like, that team was so bad. It had, like, the Ricky Davis, and you're just like, oh my gosh, this team stinks. But all of a sudden, you may get that guy and, like, see it all grow. It's part of the fun. I mean, it's, very few teams get to be competing for the title every year. So going to see guys ball out is a good time. And those types of games, again, as a bettor, to bring it back to the betting side of things, not necessarily as a product for the casual viewer on TV, but it's great, because the books have no idea how to lie lines for these guys that are, seventh, eighth guy on the bench. So if you get a book that's brave enough to hang numbers, and it was better a couple years ago, but the books are getting smarter at they won't post numbers until right before. And even then, you might not even get all five starters might not even have lines you can bet on in these games, which is kind of crazy. But hey, it is what it is, man. We've got to stay evolving and find edges where we can.
Matt, appreciate the time, man.
Yeah.
Let everyone know where they can find you.
Like you mentioned at the start, I'm over on Dub Club now. You just look for me, put Matkafee, same way you can find me at Twitter. I'll be posting plays on there and posting plays in the Dub Club.
Appreciate the time, man. We'll do it again soon.
Thanks, Will.
All right, that will do it. Thank you to Matt McAfee. Rate, review, subscribe. Enjoy the weekend. We will be back Monday. See you then.